how many people read the daily newspapers and occasional magazines from time to time? Talk more of literature books. What has resulted to this? Can it be corrected? Of course, all this can be summed up in our reading culture. We'll be looking at this in a moment. What can be done about it, if it's good or it's bad. Please don't go anywhere. This is Pros and Cons, and I'm your host, Precious David-Ogaga. Thank you for sticking around with us. And to my left, I have Francis Poazi. He's a lecturer at the Nigerian Delta University and the COO, Fidios Concepts and Services Limited. Welcome on set, sir.
Thank you very much.
And to my right is Mr. Ekakite Omamuke. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Yeah, thank you for coming on set. And like Belia said, we were looking at the reading culture among the youths, especially this generation. We've seen that it's dwindling by the day. And I would like to start with you, Mr. Francis. What do you really think is the cause of this?
Yeah, before I go in there, we would like to define the concept. What is meant by reading? Reading is a process or a skill that you acquire, both writing or just it could be skill you acquire to empower your basic way of life, and the culture, like itself, is a way of life. Okay. So when you mean by reading, we should be able to imbibe a culture, a way of life. So what could be able to increase or enhance our reading culture is for me yourself, because you start it and you end it. The family you came from doesn't matter, though it has a part to play, but yourself. So the child or the youth or the family you came from should be able to form a habit, form a culture, so that you grow with that way of life, or that it's like a river, it flows, and when it gets to a point, it will bend. So that should be a consistent way of doing things. That's what I understand by reading and the culture that will be able to, yeah.
Okay, so what do you really think cause? Because now it's like, from statistics, we see that a lot of people are not really interested in developing this culture. So what do you think is the cause of this?
The cause may be the foundation of the individual, or let's say where the person was raised.
Okay.
And the first place a child can learn something is a family. Can you ask yourself, your family, is your mother or your father, are they involved in the child education? Or are you the parents that you just send the child to go and read, and meanwhile they don't see you reading? So that could be a cause, because if you can always send your children to go and read and they don't see you reading, they don't have interest. Do you give them interest, or the reason why they should read? What are the reasons? What are the benefits? Make them to see why they should read. Yeah, so that could be a cause, or it could be a defect in the culture of the family or the child, why it should not read. Because if the parents are not interested in reading, the child will not be interested.
Okay, Mr. Mamoke, what do you think about what he just said? He said basically majorly the family. Is there something you think we will add to that?
I think one factor that makes people not read is has to do with the environment.
Okay.
If they are living in an environment that people don't have that habit of reading, they tend not to read. And another factor too is discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline. You know, we are living in a time whereby people don't want to take time to be disciplined when it comes to reading. Readers are leaders.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference between our continent and the other continents. Readers are leaders. So if we have that mentality, that background of knowing that if we read, we become leaders, I think it will help our youths and help others to have that, develop that culture of reading.
Well, okay, we've seen that, like when Mr. Francis just said, family, and when you're talking about the environment and of course the discipline. Are there any effects it can have on the person as a person, or generally as a nation? You know, you're talking about, okay, the difference in this continent and basically because of their knowledge.
Yeah.
So what are the effects that this poor reading culture can cause?
Yeah.
And to the individual, to maybe the family and the nation as a whole, what are the
if an individual develops a poor reading culture, he won't be able to sustain our future in terms of in terms of science, in terms of technology, in terms of production, in terms of a lot of things, because what you acquire, the knowledge you acquire sustains you for the future. So a future without knowledge is a dead future. So I think when people don't develop that reading culture, they tend to put their future into chaos or into problems, because we won't be able to solve problems in the future. The purpose of reading is to solve problems when problems arise. So if we lack that knowledge of reading, we lack that knowledge which we get from reading, we won't be able to sustain our future.
Wow, Mr. Francis, I would like you to comment on that also. What are the effects that this poor reading culture can cause?
The effect is quite enormous, because it will go negatively affecting the society, because the influence of the society is determined by the percentage of people that are having the culture or the habit of reading. Reading should be consistent. You know, while in school, some person can just look at the book and scan through. That's not reading that can sustain the future. You'll be able to study. I don't want to even call reading. We have to study, because reading is different from study. Somebody can read something and they don't understand, but those that read and understand, that can sustain the future, are those that are consistent over time. Okay. If you read a book and drop it and maybe come next tomorrow and pick it up, then you have wasted that time. It should be consistent, true with one book, true with what you are studying, and you'll be able to build a culture. You'll be able to, that should be a way of life. So the percentage of people that are in this environment, if 80 to 60% or thereabouts are readers, our future is guaranteed, because we can sustain, like he said, we can sustain the future. Because if you read and are not following up, you can't tell me what the last book you read in your primary school. Do you still remember? No, because you are not consistent with it. Yeah. But if you are consistent with it, maybe after school you just read with your children or with your younger ones, you should be able to remember what you do, so that when situation arises, you can solve.
Okay, and if we will come to a place where we're able to develop this culture, is there a way we can apply this to maybe whatever we do, any areas of application? Yes,
it's very important. Like I said from the beginning, the formative part of children starts with the family. So the family should be able to have a reading time. You should have in your own family a reading time and get involved. The parents are guilty in this. However, the children play a major part. For me, even though you are not intelligent or not literate as a parent, you can as well get involved. And many parents will check the assignment of their children. They just say go and do while they are watching film. And we have to reduce the way and manner we raise up our own, or we train our children. The TV, the moment you influence or you get your children to always be watching their cartoon or whatever program, and if that takes the major part of their life, it will affect their developmental stage of their brain. It will affect the brain. However, you should not deprive them from their rights. So what we need to do is to get involved and always sensitize them, and you have to give them reinforcement. Like I said, give them the reason to read. Tell them if you read, you'll be able to sustain and you'll be able to solve a problem. So that way, they should build a culture. Like Joshua 1:8 said, let this book not depart from your hearts. Yeah. That way, you'll be able to have a good success. So if the books you have, and you have to provide books, create environments. How many houses say that has a library? But we have bars in our houses, right? So we should be able to, the environment the children find themselves can help them. However, children who doesn't have those luxuries can as well self-development read. So you will not tie to the fact that every parent must provide a library. After providing, that self-development comes to play, because an average family in Bayelsa doesn't have that luxury of books and the reading culture, but you have to develop yourself.
Okay, I think Mr. Francis has spoken a little bit of how this can be addressed. I would like you to also comment on that. How do you think we can address this poor reading culture and maybe provide solutions to that?
I think the family has a major role to play. Yeah. Discipline from the parents matters a lot. Okay. For example, every family should have a reading timetable from the pre-nursery down to wherever that child will grow with that reading culture. Because if he knows that before I sleep I have to read, or during 12 midnight I have to wake up 2 hours and read, and that helps the child to have that habit to read, so that when he grows up, maybe get into the higher institution, he knows that he's used to it. I think the reason why people find difficulty in reading is because they don't have the habit of reading, and they've not developed it over time. So I believe the family has a role. Also, the school has a role to play. The school has a role to play, and possibly one or two other persons in the society have a role to play. Everyone has a role to play.
You know, they really said a lot about this topic, from the place of the family, the place of the environment. He also talked about the place of discipline. And of course, I like the part where he said even if the library is not there, you should also have the place of self-development, you know, as an individual. You know? So we know sometimes, so you don't have to just blame that my family didn't do this for me, or the environment didn't do this for me. You should also have the discipline to do that. So, Mr. Francis, from your own perspective as a lecturer, what can you say about the reading culture among students, especially in the higher education institutions?
Well, I would say it's not quite encouraging relative to, let's say, outside world.
Okay.
And let's say they are not competitive enough because of the result we get outside. Because most of the villages, they don't believe in those who even go to school. They believe in what they can see, the cash. And presently, students are out there, the result they want to get, how many grades I want to make.
Okay.
So they are ready of the quick thing. So most of them, they go there and study and prepare some their own notes for the exam. Their own notes, which most of us are very quite familiar with, those microchips. So instead of the reading, they are writing out what they want to write in the exam.
Wow.
So it's like I said earlier, studying, they don't study to know after the exam. You know, you can come out from the university and don't know what you're doing. So it's not quite encouraging. And I will not rule out the fact that they are not reading. They are reading, but the result is not quite encouraging. Many that must have passed through the university world, they can affirm to the fact that out of 10 students, perhaps it's just 2 that is reading, and in statistics, that is below the belt.
And what would you have to say to them?
What I have to say to them is for them to just believe that after the school, there is life to live. It's not the exam that you pass, it's what you know.
Wow. And Mr. Mamoke, there is this popular saying that if you need to hide something from a black man, put it in a book.
Yeah.
Is that really true? And if it's true, what do you think can be done to resolve it?
That's very true, because most time you get an equipment which you can easily install, and the instruction is in the manual.
Of course, we don't.
We will not take time. We just call the experts, come and fix this thing, and you can go through the manual and really understand what these people need, and you fix it. You know, very easy. So I feel we should be patient enough to go through whatever we need to read. We should be patient in reading, because reading is patient. To sit down 3 hours and read is patience. So I think we should be patient enough to really take our time in reading. That will help us to break that barrier. I think we need patience. The black man lacks patience.
Just a quick one. I want to just add on a final note. While you are reading, you should be able to make your notes. That way you should, and don't just give up. Oh, I don't understand. Like one of my mentors said, read the thing over and over again. It's not for you to just understand immediately. If you understand, good. If you don't understand, make a note. Yeah. The one line you've read, try to paraphrase on your own so that you will understand.
On the final word, Mr. Francis, what's your advice for?
I think we have to go back to those days of where we encourage each other. You know, I grew up in an environment where if you do something wrong, whether you are my father or not, they correct you. So if you see a child that is not having a book or is not having that pattern and you know it, try to encourage your neighbor's children. Try to encourage your children. What you don't have, you can help others to even have. So I think we should be our brother's keeper. And from the point of view of let's development, let the schools, let the government, let the family have more time in books than the toys we have in.
Wow, more times in books than the toys. And Mr. Mamoke, what's your final word for them? If you get somebody there, how will you encourage the person to develop it?
Yes, I will encourage. I think reading of books will help, news bulletins, you know, anything that will develop the knowledge of a child or of a person, and get that to help the person acquire anything, because reading is all about acquiring knowledge, and that is the most important. So anything that can develop the child over time in acquiring knowledge, it should be done. Even the individual has a role to play. You yourself, you have to get things that can develop your skills. Yeah, that's what I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Francis Pwazi, for coming on set.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Ekakite Omaoke, right? That name's a little bit. I think I need some reading culture for that. Thank you for coming on set.
Very much,
and I hope to see you guys sometime again on set. And like they've said, The environment, the family, all are part of the problem and also the solution. But of course, we can't just rely on all this. We need discipline and we need the place of responsibility for self-development. But on the final note, let everyone tour the path of rectitude, for this certainly is a sure way to emancipation from a poor reading culture. I hope you had an exciting time with us on this episode. Please don't fail to connect with us on our social media handles or put a call to us. You can also send us an email or visit our website. This is Pons and Quotes. I'm your host, Precious David-Ogaga, and please do well to join us same time next week. Bye for now.